Let's see this debate between a Christian and an atheist, where the atheist only defense seems to be no.
Like there's a lot of internal
That's
evidence.
nonsense. That is such a bullshit argument. To claim that Celsus had better sources and
I never said that.
and analytical techniques than we do now is simply nonsense.
Let's let him clarify his statement, and then we'll carry on. So, Paulo's like 15 seconds, and then we'll let you carry on with your slide.
Yeah, so like there's internal evidence. That's not the only piece of evidence, by the way. Like internal clues that speak to the professions of each of the evangelists. There's a testimony of Papias, an early, I believe he was a disciple of John, showing that the earliest attribution to Mark's gospel was that it was Peter's testimony. And he also has a passage for Matthew. There are forgery concerns in early Christianity. There's also practical need just to identify these gospels because the synoptic gospels were so similar. They were so similar that for you to just say that they were just called gospel 1, gospel 2, gospel 3 doesn't make a lot of sense if they're anonymous. And so like if they had titles, it would have been, if anything, the authors attributed to them.
All right, let's hand it back over to Tony there to respond to some of that. Sorry, I thought you were screen sharing for a second there, Tony, and I got tied up there.
I was for a moment and I stopped.
All right, well, I'll let you respond there, Tony, and we'll carry on.
Okay, none of those arguments bear any weight whatsoever. That somebody claims that an author wrote something is not at all evidence.
That's not the
evidence.
argument.
It's evidence that the authors wanted that connection made. It is not evidence that no, sir, shut up. It is not evidence. It is evidence that the authors wanted the association to be made. The Chronicles of the Elders of Zion, or whatever it is, was not written by Elders of Zion, but it was titled that because the authors wanted that connection made. The authors had an agenda, and the title they chose for their work fitted with that agenda. This is true of the Gospels as it is true of every other work of fiction.
Yeah, and present your evidence. Your turn.
That is not evidence of attribution. Your claimed understanding of the Gospel of Mark is due to Peter's interpreter. Then why isn't it called the Gospel of Peter?
All right, there's a lot of questions.
That's actually a good reason why it can be connected to reliably to Peter's testimony, because like if they were making something up, if they were just making it up, they would have called it.
So sorry, I got to put you on mute there, Tony. Just we have to let him answer some of the questions that you've asked, and then let you respond with those thoughts. So if you don't find it sufficient, then you'll have a chance to respond. You are on mute. I'm going to take you off mute and just ask you to respectfully let him respond. And I don't expect you to like it.
Yeah. PhD Tony over here has to add PhD to his name, just so you know. I have a PhD. Seething already, can't handle the arguments. I wonder if this guy is related to Mark, the other atheist that debated Andrew Wilson and Jim Bob recently.
So go ahead there, Apollos.
Yeah, so all I was saying was that so he said, why is it not called the Gospel of Peter if it's connected to Peter's testimony? Well, that actually points to like a criterion of embarrassment sort of thing, like not embarrassment, but actually kind of embarrassment, because like if it is the case that they were trying to make up a title, then they would have connected it to Peter, but they knew that it was connected to Mark, Peter's interpreter.
You were claiming that the Apostle Mark was Peter's interpreter.
Yeah, that's what Papias says.
And how do we know that Papias is right?
He was a disciple of John.
Really?
There's a lot of like, yeah.
How do we know that?
How do you know that he's not a disciple?
You're the person making the positive claim.
Yeah. I reject dialectical egalitarianism. I reject positivity and negativity of claims.
You asked me a question, and then after whining about my interruptions, you instantly start interrupting me. Okay, I don't have a positive case here. I'm saying the evidence is unpersuasive for the burden you're trying to carry. You're trying to argue that it is persuasive.
I reject dialectical egalitarianism.
So you must substantiate it better than so-and-so said something.
You know, at the end of the day, it all comes out to, he wants to talk about something being persuasive. It's all up to the individual whether or not the argument is persuasive or not. I could just come on here and say anything, and some people are going to believe it no matter how much evidence I've shown or didn't show. So this whole thing, this PhD Tony over here wants to keep arguing, well, it's not persuasive. Well, maybe to you, how is that winning to the debate that it's not persuasive enough? Some people are going to find it persuasive, some people are not. It's all up to the individual. So I don't think that's really much of an argument there, PhD Tony.
But it's not.
So-and-so said that Christ rose from the dead.
It's a lot of people saying so-and-so.
To demonstrate.
It's a lot of people saying it. It's a lot of people saying
I don't care how many people say it.
Oh, that's great. But, a lot of people do care. And these are eyewitnesses who would have known whether or not those whether or not those events would have truly transpired. These are people who were ground in boots, like in the events portrayed at hand. It's called multiple independent attestation.
You claim that
testimony is evidence, sir.
Sir,
I'm sorry you don't recognize that.
No, sir, you don't have. All you have is a series of claims. Papias is claimed to be a disciple of John. Mark is claimed to be Mark the evangelist. You claim is the author.
Why do you have reason to doubt that, though?
Hold on.
I don't have. I need, because you then
testimony is evidence, sir.
No, only if I cannot firmly identify the person. If somebody comes up and says, let's suppose that I go into court tomorrow and I say I am Donald Trump and I am countermanding all of his executive orders of the past 9 months. They're not going to believe me because I say I am Donald Trump. I need to verify my identity and you're claiming that the identity has been verified, and that's the crux of your argument, except that the identity has not been verified.
Why do you have such a high burden of proof for just a mere
this is where you've been for
proposition?
Well, this is convenient for the atheist, because how can you verify something that happened, like hundreds of years ago? How can you verify this? You would need a time machine to actually go back and see, hey, did this happen? You know what I mean? So it's the same argument that they always go to. Well, if God real, why doesn't he reveal himself right now? If God real, why am I bald?
His hair's not real. Oh my God. All right.
No worries. So why do you have such a high standard burden of proof for such a mundane claim like he was a disciple of John?
Because if I believe his claim, I've got no reason not to believe Mani's claims, no reason to believe Muhammad's disciples' claims. I've got no reason not to believe all of these other religious claims. So if I believe your claims,
there are indicators
I'm going to believe other religions as well. And that puts you in a bind. You need to come up with a reason for why I should exclusively believe your claims and not believe the claims of other religions.
The other religions don't even claim eyewitness testimony.
Yes, John Smith had eyewitnesses.
Joseph Smith, but I'm happy to get into that now that you brought it up.
I don't.
Well, hold on.
Why should I not believe his eyewitnesses?
Let's just go back. Hold on. Let's just go back to your initial question, if we can, just so we can focus on that, which was, why are you giving priority to one religion and not the other? Let's try to just hone in on that a little bit for fun, because I don't think we've really gotten into that. So if you can, I'll pause. I guess that's kind of what he's trying to ask, is like, why are you making I guess why would you make that choice over another religion that's making a similar choice or a similar claim?
So in the case of the Gospels and the New Testament, they claim to be eyewitnesses, and there's good reason to believe that. And for those other religions that claim eyewitness testimony to similar quote unquote quasi-divine stuff, they're nowhere near comparable to the evidential weight of the Gospels. Easy.
That's simply an assertion, sir. And
no,
if
you
I
asked me
if
a
I
question.
take your if I
that you asked me
and
a
if
question.
I take your and if I take your and
I'm
if I
happy to
take
get
your-
into the evidence.
If I take your
I'm happy to get into the evidence.
You might want to actually listen to what I'm saying for once. And if I take your attitude, there are eyewitnesses to fairies. There are eyewitnesses to Bigfoot. There are eyewitnesses to aliens. Plenty of credible people present there are eyewitnesses to ghosts. There are plenty of credible people who will provide eyewitness testimony who are still alive today. Why should I not believe them?
You know, a lot of them like recant their eyewitness testimony and like aren't sincere and are trying to like make a buck and like
yes,
are not under the threat of
I know
persecution.
that. Yeah, I do know that.
Okay, just
and
want
I
to make that
and
clear.
I argue that, as you point out, that it's true of those witnesses. You have not presented argument. You have not presented strong arguments for why it isn't true of your witnesses.
I was gonna get to the arguments. Oh my God. How long has it been going on?
God isn't
Ryan?
here to help you.
What?
We are at an hour.
You
and
just
38.
called on your God. He isn't here to help you.
That's a claim.
Well, he could be presenting this himself, could he not?
Do you want to go into divine hiddenness? I have slides for that too.
Yes, you have slides for everything, but
Yeah, slice for everything. Did this dude really say, well, he's not here to present it himself? Did PhD Tony really call on God to come down and debate him himself? Did he really just debate me, bro? God?
the fact is that if God exists and he wants people to know and he is omnipotent, could he not take steps to make everybody in chat convert to Christianity right now?
Well,
So
let's
John Hicks championed the idea
yeah.
that evils in the world can be seen to be justified if one views the world as designed by God to be an environment in which people, through their free choices, can undergo spiritual growth. So, in other words, he's giving them the freedom to reject him. Not so much evidence to the point where like his existence becomes like undeniable to the point where it enforces belief.
Aren't you arguing that it is?
That what?
Aren't you arguing that the existence of God is undeniable?
I argue that it is probable, it is evidential, that it's more likely to be true. But of course, again,
what is it? Show me your probability distribution function.
What?
Dude, like,
well, you're claiming that it's more probable. Show me your probability distribution.
You know, So probabilities work on more than just interval scales. They work on ordinal scales and stuff like that. So like high, medium, low.
You need a probability distribution function.
Yeah,
show it to me.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on a scale from 1 to 100, and we use this in like many other Bayesian
by
applications.
definition, a probability is on a scale of 1 to 100.
No.
Yes. Something is either false or true, or it is probably there is some probability of it being.
There are literal like probability understandings that can go on an ordinal scale. So example like climate science, unknown base rates, ordinal probabilities. Oh yeah, political science, election forecasting, conflict analysis.
Yes. So none of this is you're pulling up examples that confirm
that probability can work on more than just that can work more than just an interval scale on 1 to 100.
No, that's not what you demonstrated, sir.
Yeah, I have.
No, you haven't.
I mean, it was shared on the screen.
You stated stuff that you clearly don't understand.
Right.
What do I not understand about it?
Let's look at the climate science example.
Okay, go ahead.
The rate of occurrence of a particular event. For instance, we can make statements. For instance, like the heat waves recently experienced in Europe.
So I just wanted to clarify the climate science was like
I'm in the middle of
explaining
I'm in the middle of explaining probability to you, because clearly it's a topic and climate science to you, because clearly they are topics that you don't understand. We can firmly say that the probability of the heat waves experienced by Europe are vastly more probable now than they were in pre-industrial climates. That is something that can be said with great certainty.
That's not a scale on 1 to 100.
Yes, it is.
What's the scale? What's a scale? What's a probability? Show it to me.
We can say that the probability has increased from 1 in 10 years, from 1 in 100 years, for instance, to
That's
1
not,
in 10.
where's your probability distribution?
Sir, you need to listen to me. We can say that the probability of an event occurring has gone from 95% over a 10-year interval.
Is there a bomb about to go off back there? There's like a beeping. Whose beeping is that? Moderator, get to the bottom of this. Get to the bottom of that beeping, sir. Stat. It's kind of annoying, distracting.
To 95% over a 1-year interval, or from 95% over a 100-year interval to 95% over a 10-year interval.
Yeah, and
we can say that we can therefore say that is a probability scale of between 1 and 100. It's just time.
And what about election forecasting? What about election forecasting?
What about election forecasting?
They don't use an interval scale 1 to 100, but they still make probability
It's
arguments.
100%. There's a 100% probability that somebody is going to win the election. Is there not?
What?
Sure.
Yes.
Unless
there is an X possibility. There is an X% possibility that one candidate.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he's talking about, dude. He's not talking about what's the probability that someone's going to win election. Yeah, I think it's safe to say 100% someone's going to win the election. Yeah, that's without a doubt. But what about? I think he's talking about like when predicting who's going to win. That's what he's talking about. And I think PhD Tony knows that. Doesn't he have a PhD? Doesn't he know that that's what Apollo Sears is talking about? Jeez. By the way, if you're enjoying this, hit that like button, hype up this video, whatever that does. I don't know what it does yet, but do that too. And also subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying. Let's continue.
It will win, plus or minus a margin.
But that's not the probability I'm talking about.
Plus or minus a margin. I'm not claiming that there is a known percentage. I am claiming that the percentage is known plus or minus a particular margin. That there are uncertainties does not mean that there is no percentage. We know that the percentage cannot be more than 100%.
I'm not saying there wasn't a
percentage. Be less than 100%.
All I'm saying is that you can work on an ordinal scale, high, medium, low.
You can work on that. Yes, and some people do work.
You do
on that,
realize that's also, in a sense, a numerical scale, 0 to 3.
Sir, they define what high, medium, and low mean. They define high, medium, and low with respect to numbers between 0 and 100. Do they not?
Not necessarily.
Yes, they do, sir. You're just lying now.
No, because ordinal scales are.
If we take, for instance, the IPCC reports, they are very strict about defining what is high probability, what is low probability, and what is medium probability.
Oh, man. Okay, you see this? Equal interval between variables, not in the case of ordinal scales. Okay.
Sir, that is not what I'm arguing, sir. I'm arguing that you clearly don't understand probability, and you clearly don't understand what you're talking about.
Well, let's let Apollo present what he has here on screen if you'd like, or not. Kiddo needs a drink, so you'll have to excuse me for a second. Behave yourself, fellas, all right?
All right. High, medium, and low probability, for instance, in the IPCC reports are defined, right? You can look this up. They define what those terms mean.
Natural language processing also has neutral, negative, and positive, but it's not on like 0 to 3.
I beg your pardon?
Natural language processing, AI.
Yeah. Well, yes, and?
It means it's not 0 to 3. I mean, it's not like
0 to 3.
Sorry. It's ordered, but the intervals are not equal.
The intervals being equal have no relationship to a probability distribution function. You are simply throwing out non sequiturs. You don't understand what you're talking about. Nobody is claiming constant.
But you're the one who said.
You're the one
boy.
claiming. You're the one claiming that that one event is more probable than another. I want to know how you came to that conclusion.
Okay. You want me to present more evidence?
No, I want to know how you're ascribing probabilities.
I'm ascribing it based on an ordinal scale, high, medium, low.
How? What
I'm
is your
making
basis?
arguments. I'm making arguments.
That is not ascribing you have not, for instance,
you're burdened to do the same thing.
No,
if you're going to argue
not.
for atheism.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, so the prompt here is atheism versus Christianity, which is true. So absolutely, PhD Tony also has a burden of proof as well, as we've all learned from the Andrew Wilson Wikipedia debate, huh?
You are.
And again, no. What I'm
we all do the same thing.
Is,
we all do the same thing.
Is
Yeah.
that the evidence of a miraculous, the probability of any miraculous event having occurred is low. And it will remain, and I will remain in that position until you show me evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, and I've been trying to show you evidence to the contrary.
You haven't shown me anything other than people say stuff.
I wanted, dude, like seriously, I wanted to get into Daniel. I wanted to get into gospel authorship, evidence being empirical.
Yes,
but
except
you don't
that the
let
gospel also so if you want to, we're not the people to debate gospel authorship. The people to debate gospel authorship are biblical scholars. They have debated
I've been
it,
citing
and the
biblical
vast majority of them have come to a conclusion that is contrary to yours. And you don't like that.
What do you mean the vast majority of them at this time? Point in time?
I am still talking. You don't like the fact that they disagree with you, and you cherry pick scholars that agree with you. You're
not doing the same thing.
Evidence. That's
Yeah,
bad evidence.
Exactly.
Let's give Apollos a chance here, PhD Tony. I understand there's a lot of passion around the subject, but yeah, if you did want to get into any of Daniel's prophecy and all that stuff, that's kind of fun too, and I think it's might be interesting to our audience. Since a lot of people don't talk about that.
He made the claim that like Mark was written in like the 70s. Can you present me an argument for that?
Certainly. Give me 10 minutes.
Sure.
Jeez, 10 minutes.
I will just inject one more time just to say we still only have 3 super chats. So I don't know if you guys want to keep cooking and, while I extend an invitation to the audience to throw some super chats in there, ask a question.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're on the Modern Day Debates channel and you're watching these debates live, I highly suggest send them a super chat. They do put on good debates. This has been pretty entertaining so far. I mean, I know we can't go back in time and send super chats for this debate, but hey, maybe a super thanks or something.
Record of reporting inaccurate information about Jesus and his disciples. A case in point would be his description of Judas's death, which is widely regarded as unreliable. So, there is scholarship here that is widely divergent from the cherry-picked examples that Apollos presented. He presented his claim from Papias, and without being critical of Papias's credentials, without examining the broader context of Papias's utterances, he accepted it wholesale.
I argued more than that.
He is uncritical in his acceptance of evidence that agrees with his hypothesis, and he is unduly generous. He applies a double standard when looking at other forms of evidence from other testimony.
I presented more than just Papias. I presented the manuscript data. I presented the idea that the enemies of Jesus attested to the same gospel authorship. I presented like a lot of pieces of evidence.
That they use the same names for these works that the Christians did does not mean that they were affirming the authorship. They were just arguing on the basis that these were the accepted names.
I 100% disagree.
It does not in any sense imply that Celsus or any of the other critics had more information than modern scholars about who wrote these texts.
I would actually disagree entirely with both the idea that they would have known less than modern scholars because they're literally in the ground boots and knowing what was happening. And then
When
as
was
far as like
Celsus
the
alive?
authors, wait, hold on. But before as far as like the authors, the authorship not directly connecting to the title. Well, the title literally says according to Matthew, according to Mark, according to Luke, according to John.
Someone says. Who says?
The titles.
Who says that it's according to Mark?
I said the titles and
The
Papias
title claims
and
that.
the
Who
enemies
wrote
of
the
Jesus.
title? Who wrote the title?
The author. Wait, what?
Okay. No. Nowhere in Mark does it say I am Mark.
It's internally anonymous, but I already showed you that there were works in Greco-Roman
Yes,
antiquity that were internally anonymous.
There exist internally anonymous works does not substantiate your claim that this particular person was the author. That's not an argument. And Celsus was alive in 175.
Well, what it does mean is that it's high. It doesn't mean that it's anonymous. Like it was written originally anonymously, without any understanding to be
written by
anonymous.
someone. Your claim is that someone was Mark the Evangelist, and your evidence for it is flimsy at best.
What makes it flimsy?
It's a claim from somebody who heard it fourth hand, according to
Papias
their
was a
understanding,
disciple of John.
and whose other testimony in this regard is unreliable. Right? This is somebody who gets the death of Judas wrong. So we know that the author you're getting this claim from is Papias, is unreliable as a narrator.
How do you know?
We don't believe him. You're arguing. You seem to argue that Celsus, who was alive in the late. Celsus was alive in the late 2nd century. So claiming that he was boots on the ground, a phrase that you've been flubbing the entire night, is untrue. He was centuries.
Well, I said Celsus and the other heretics.
Celsus and the other heretics, I don't care. They were writing why do you think they have more accurate and more complete scholarship on these issues than modern scholars do? Where's your evidence for that?
They would have known whether or not the
Why?
claims were
What's
true.
your evidence? I didn't ask you what they knew. I asked you what your evidence was.
They're dating? Wait, what?
What evidence do you have that they knew more about the authorship of the Gospels than modern scholars?
Why are you presupposing that the modern scholars know more?
I'm not supposing anything. You're claiming that they did. I'm asking how you know that.
I already told you that. Like,
I'm saying
there are many
I
pieces
don't
of
know.
evidence.
I'm
Okay,
saying
fair
I
enough,
don't
fair enough.
know. You're saying that you do know. How do you know?
I already presented you pieces of evidence regarding
No,
the
you
authorship of the
didn't.
gospel.
This is a different question, sir. You have just claimed that Celsus and his contemporaries knew more about the authorship of the Gospels than modern scholars do. Prove it.
He is closer to the events at hand.
That is a reason. That is not evidence.
Why is it not evidence?
Because you
Is it not a
haven't proved
probability
the fact
raiser?
at hand. You haven't proved the fact at hand. The fact that he was closer in time bears no relationship to whether
I never said it was proof.
I asked for your evidence. I don't need
Yes,
proof.
and
I
evidence
need
is
evidence.
Evidence is a probability raising
No,
proposition.
evidence is the fact that they were closer in time. So what you're saying is that the writers of the 17th century knew more about Old
That's what you're
Testament
saying.
scholarship than modern scholars because they were closer in time.
17th century. That's not. I never said 17th century.
Okay, but that's the same argument. Why isn't it true for 17th century scholars? Why is it true for Celsus and not for this again?
They're closer.
This again is special pleading. You make an argument and then you go, it's true in this one case, but in this case where it's obviously not true, for some reason it doesn't apply anymore.
I'm not saying it doesn't apply, but what I am saying is that scholarship applies more. But Uh,
You don't. You make claims.
in the 17th century,
about,
scholarship applies more, but when we're talking about 2nd century, then being close to the events at hand applies more.
Why? Why would Celsus have any direct first-hand? Why would did Celsus claim anywhere in his work that he knew who wrote the Gospels?
Give me a sec.
All right, while you bring that up, yeah, just want to remind everybody that we will move into that Q&A shortly. We appreciate everybody who has put in a super chat, be it only a few of you so far. So once again, we are going to move into that super chat section soon. So if you have a question, it's going to be read sooner rather than later. So let's let Apollos bring up, you want to screen share there?
Yeah. So Celsus was a 2nd century critic, and if there was any doubt about the attribution of the Gospels, he would have said that there was a reason to doubt the authorship.
Okay, does Celsus's work survive?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think there are like quotes.
Yes, there are quotes. So we don't have the entirety of his book, do we?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up again.
No, we don't. So you're claiming he would have said something, and we don't know if he said it or not.
You say that again?
You're claiming that he would have said something. We only know tiny snippets of what he said. We do not have his complete work.
Okay, and those tiny snippets are sufficient.
I would argue that even at core, your argument is a fallacy. He would have known this because I say so. No.
I didn't say it's because I say so.
There is no reason for anyone to use the names for these books other than the names that were assigned to them by Christians. And there is no reason, there is no reason to accept that there was any question about it. We don't know. He may have found it personally plausible, but he was writing like 150 years after the events in the gospel. How would he have, in a completely different geographical region, how would he have any idea who wrote the gospels? Google didn't exist. As you've pointed out, Google wasn't there then. How would he know?
Well, he clearly knows like the contents of the Gospels to critique it, and he would have critiqued the fact that there were anonymous, that there was a good reason for possibility distribution.
How would
he's literally critiquing Christianity?
I beg your pardon?
The contents of the Gospels.
He's not well. His critique of Christianity was on his main critique of Christianity was that it was just the same as every other cult. That there were dozens of other cults that were just like this one, and they believed and Christians believe that their stories are special, and they reject the other stories. That was Celsus's point. Celsus's argument
and we're talking about
was exactly the same as my argument against criticism, and one that you have not.
Now we're arguing two different points.
He was uninterested in who wrote the Gospels. What he was interested in is that they make the exact same claims as.
But I'm making an argument for authorship.
You're getting into an argument for authorship because you need authorship to make your claim. My argument is that you do not have the evidence to substantiate your claims about authorship.
Okay, I mean, we've just been going back and forth with this. Do we want to go into super chats, Ryan?
I think
Listen, have you ever seen the YouTube? Have you ever seen the YouTube video where it was a compilation of all the times the host of that fact or fiction show where he's just standing there going, "Not this time. Nope. It's not this time. Wrong again. We made it up. Nope. It's false. We made it up. Wrong again. It's false. Nope. Didn't happen." That's pretty much PhD Tony's argument. This whole argument here, you don't have proof. You don't have proof. And I have a feeling that there's not enough proof in the world other than pretty much like with all these atheists, pretty much God has to come down and be like, here I am, guys. See, I am real. All right. See you later. Bye. In order for them to believe anything. And that was PhD Tony's whole thing here is just basically, nope, nuh-uh, didn't happen. Nope, not this time. Sorry, wrong again. And just, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Evidence, evidence, evidence. And the fact of the matter is with these atheists is that they're not willing to, like they're willing, if a scientist comes out and says something, they're not going to be here going, what's your evidence? What's your evidence? What's your evidence? They're going to be like, oh, well, if a scientist says it, well, then therefore I'm going to believe them, even though you don't even know if the scientist is lying. You don't even know if this is an actual scientist. I mean, I guess there's ways to verify, but is the atheist really going to be looking and verifying everything the atheist says? No, probably not. They're probably just going to believe whatever the scientist said, as we've seen in the past. So this whole notion about just having faith or believing whatever, complete total nonsense. And it's just complete 100% up to bias, up to their own personal bias. I gotta say, it was pretty entertaining to see PhD Tony getting all worked up and all irritated at Apollos here. Apollos did a solid job. I think he could have done a little bit better here and there, but overall, I thought he did solid. PhD Tony wasn't bad for an atheist. However, again, his only argument just seems to be, nuh-uh, nuh-uh, not this time. We made it up. And the prompt was, which one is true? Meaning that Tony here had to prove that atheism was true. That's what he had to prove. And conveniently for him, it's hard to prove a negative. So there's that. But what did you guys think about this? If you want to see the full entire debate, go check it out on the Modern Day Debates channel. I have the full link up in the description down below. Give this video a like, subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video, and I have a lot more debates up on my channel. I have a few up on the screen that you could check out right now.